Let's continue our conversation about SEC Media Days, which is taking place in Atlanta. We saw the odds to win the conference. They're also reflective of the national championship, where Texas and Georgia are essentially co-favorites. Those two programs will be talking later this week. And there's talk about this, Nick Saban as well, from one of his former players, Greg McElroy, saying, quote, a very much in the know person that I have a lot of respect for and have spent a lot of time around and just really admire. They seem to think Nick Saban is not done coaching. He's pretty adamant that he thinks Nick Saban will be coaching again, end quote. That coming from the Mac and Cube show on local radio in Birmingham. Let's go to SEC Media Days at the College Football Hall of Fame with Damien Harris and Josh Pate. Damien, I got to come to you first here. I don't know if you heard anything on the matter here, but what is your thought about Nick Saban potentially returning?
Well, first of all, I don't have any groundbreaking information for you guys or any sources that, gave me this great intel that I can give you. But what I can say is I've already said this morning. If there is an advantageous situation for Coach Saban, and when I say Coach Saban, I mean Coach Saban and Miss Terry, that would allow him to get back to doing what ultimately we all know Coach Saban was put on this earth to do, which is coach football, we both can sit here and agree that he would probably take that because it is Nick Saban and he was put here to coach college football and to be a leader of young men. Do I think that there's an advantageous situation for him, a coaching job that is open for him that suits him and what he's capable of? Not right now, especially in the era of college football that we're in, because if I'm not mistaken, Nick Saban is one of the main pioneers who is sitting in front of Congress, who is advocating for a little bit more regulation, not because he doesn't want to see kids get what they deserve, but because he wants to see them in an environment that truly molds them into professionals and great young men. So with that being said, I don't know what McElroy is hearing or where it's coming from. I can't say that I believe it. I think Coach Saban is just fine where he's at. He looks happier than ever, doesn't he?
Yes. So, Tommy, as just a little behind the scenes, the table that quote emanated from is about 3 tables down from where we sit right now. So when I walked up these stairs this morning, the first person I saw was Greg McElroy about 30 minutes after that had happened. And I'm not going to show you the hand gesture I gave him, but what I gave him would have gotten us a 15-yard penalty if we did it on Saturday, because I knew that everyone in this entire building was about to have to talk about whether Nick Saban's going to coach again the rest of the day. You just said he would need the advantageous situation. The advantageous situation was Alabama.
Duh.
And he left. So, yeah, I highly doubt it, but who knows? Who knows anymore?
Obviously, we're talking about, but quickly, you mentioned just giving us a look behind the scenes here. Has this grown a lot of legs, a little bit of legs? Has it been somewhat dismissive? Can you guys give us a gauge of how much this has become a thing where you are?
Nobody whose opinion I respect has even allowed it to have oxygen.
Yes.
I will tell you what has happened. So, Tommy, now you see all these rows and rows of seats down here behind us on the natural surface of the College Football Hall of Fame. There's been a lot of keyboard clicking down there. There's been a lot of search engine optimization generation off of that. So, yeah, they've taken it seriously. As far as it having any legs, haven't heard a single person that I would trust give serious consideration to it.
I'm in full agreement. Nobody that I know, and there might be a person or two that I've heard from that I would actually respect their opinion, and they don't think that this has any momentum either. Right. So until the man himself, like we said, if Nick Saban was going to come out of retirement and coach again, we wouldn't know until he was ready for us to know. I don't think that there would be a leak in information that didn't come directly from Nick Saban's mouth. So until he says it, I'm not buying it.
Appreciate the perspective, guys, and the insight and information where you are. If we get to just sort of a vibe check of how Media Days, again, it's the start of a 4-day event down there. Josh, this theme of Nick Saban when he was at these Media Days, now 2 removed, a dominant figure. His team was a dominant figure here. What do we think about the SEC? I mentioned Texas and Georgia are favorites essentially to win the national championship in the conference, but do you give any other shot in terms of programs? How do you assess the league as a whole?
Yeah, actually, Tommy, I mean, I go like 7 or 8 deep. And when it comes to teams that I could theoretically see win in the league, when you played at Bama, it was y'all every year as the team to beat. Or it's well defined. It's either Bama or someone's got to knock them off. And then when Kirby goes to Georgia, it's still Bama. Georgia's probably their biggest threat. 2019 LSU is a little different, but like that's the way it was every year. You'd roll into media days. It's Bama and some years it wasn't even and. It's just Bama. That is so antithetical to the way it feels now. The way it feels now is like if you look at the odds to win the whole thing, yeah, there's technically a favorite. There's no team to beat, though.
Correct.
It's Texas, it's Georgia, it's Bama, it's LSU, A&M. I could paint you a picture where they win it. Ole Miss, Florida, I could go all the way down to Oklahoma there. I think those odds are a little too long, personally. I've already backed that up with my wallet. But I could go, we got a team down there that's barely on the graphic that may have the best offensive and defensive player in this conference on the same team in South Carolina. So the vibe is, who's the team to beat? And the answer is, I don't think there is one.
Especially with all the parity that we've seen in college football just as soon as last year. I mean, with all these changes that have been made, we're seeing more teams emerge. We're seeing the top-heavy side of college football start to diminish. The playing field is starting to even up. Some people think it's because of NIL. Some people think it's because of the transfer portal. Whatever the case may be, the gap is getting smaller and smaller. So when we put that graphic up with all those teams, you can realistically create a scenario where majority of those teams can find a way to make it to the college football playoff. I mean, somebody we're not even talking about who has just as much potential as Lenore Sellers would be DJ Lagway. And we're talking about a Florida team. We were sitting here talking not about if Billy Napier was going to get fired, but when Billy Napier was going to get fired. And you know what he did? He put together a great back half of the season. He's getting his guy back. Personally, I think one of the main reasons that Billy Napier was able to keep his job was because DJ Lagway was going to return. Like, they've got a lot of things. They've got a good run game. They've got an improving defense. So, again, you can make a case for any team, a lot of teams up there, and I think that it's just about what team is going to make the most of that opportunity. What team has done the most in the offseason since the national championship until week 1.
Guys, my natural follow-up then to your conversation just now is, does the SEC as a whole still have the staying power nationwide? We, of course, hear about the Big Ten, of course, being a challenger to the SEC among the Power 4 conferences. What say you?
I don't know where on this planet you go and you find the kind of depth that we just talked about.
Nowhere.
We'll be in Vegas next week for Big Ten Media Days. We will talk Ohio State a lot. We'll talk Penn State a lot. We'll talk Oregon a lot. You may slide Michigan into that 4th spot, or you may be done at 3 when it comes to the amount of teams you think could compete for that league title. And then, to me, what's lacked in a conference like the Big Ten that this league hasn't lost, even if the top of its iceberg has been shaved a little bit, is the second tier. The second tier, the quality of the second tier of this conference, even in, and I'm going to laugh when I say this, even in this last 2-year drought of no national championships, it still sets it apart from any other league in the country. Now, people say that, Damien, or if you say that to people and they say, well, you're just carrying water for the SEC. Well, give me a logic-based rebuttal on that. Like back your opinion up that I'm wrong with data. There really is none that's incontrovertible because it's pretty obvious.
Well, we even talked about this again off air. You take a 5-7 Mississippi State team. You take a 5-7 Purdue team. Now, if you've got Purdue fans or you've got Big Ten fans, they're going to be looking like, well, these are 2 5-7 teams. What's the difference? Oh, you guys think because you're the SEC, you're all high and mighty. Well, what did you say to me earlier? When you go in the locker room, when you go in the weight room and you see those guys work out and you see those guys that are practicing, that are playing, like, these are still NFL caliber players. I can't say the same for a 5-7 Purdue team. So even just from a talent standpoint, people act like because the SEC is getting more teams in that conference that are actually starting to compete with one another. Like I said, it's not top half, it's not bottom half as much. These are still NFL caliber players. There is no league that has the type of athletes that the Southeastern Conference has. So from that standpoint alone, what are we talking about? Yeah. This Big Ten SEC debate, I mean, we're going to have it until our faces turn blue because some people just don't know what they don't know. But this Southeastern Conference conference is the conference for the athletes of the athletes, for, in my opinion, the better teams, and we're going to continue to see that year in and year out.
I've come to learn that strong take from Damien because he and I did the college football 26 toughest places to play. And he said, I've never heard or been to a place where someone said the Big Ten venue was memorable, but certainly a lot of SEC ones. Josh, you had mentioned you think there are 7, potentially 8 contenders for the league title. One of them is Ole Miss. They are trending right now with Lane Kiffin. Jackson Dart, of course, is no longer there. How much faith do you have? Give me the recipe for a Rebels run, especially how much quarterback has to play into factor.
You know, it's funny, Tom, because everyone here today is talking about quarterback. You just asked me about quarterback. I may be like the only person on the planet that when people have asked me about Ole Miss, Austin Simmons' name is not the first name out of my mouth. I actually talk about their defense first. And you can keep rolling the B-roll of Austin Simmons because this ties back to him. But I can promise you, like, if you're asking him to do exactly what Jackson Dart did for this team, he may do it. For all I know, I'm looking at the future Heisman Trophy winner there. But I wouldn't count on that. What I counted on last year with Ole Miss is they were getting to the quarterback. They were harassing other offenses. Like, they were really, really good defensively, and it got overshadowed because not many people talk about defense and Lane Kiffin in the same sentence. Well, they've got a lot of attrition there. Now, they backfilled it through the portal. I happen to think this portal class doesn't carry nearly as much thump as their previous couple of classes did. So, like, I look at it, and I say the recipe is me being wrong about that and them being every bit the caliber defensively this year that they were last year, because that allows Austin Simmons to play without being counted on to carry a whole team, which I always think is unfair for any quarterback at any point, much less a first-year starter.
You're right. I think we would have to be very wrong about the way that we see this Ole Miss team, the issues that they have, the lack of depth at certain positions. We would just have to be entirely wrong for them to make that run that we're talking about. But again, when you go from a Jackson Dart, somebody who's been in that offense for a long time and had a lot of experience, and he's putting up 60 points a game, well, as a new quarterback, you start to think, well, that might be the normal. That might be the expectation. What does that do? That causes him to put pressure on himself. Then you've got a defense that isn't necessarily as good as it was last year because they lost NFL caliber players, and now you are even more in that mode of, okay, well, we got to score 50. We've got to put 60 on the board, and that just continues to cloud the judgment of a young quarterback who just needs to just go out there and play free and play relaxed. So I'm with Pate. I would expect Ole Miss to take a step back this year, and it's not necessarily because they just don't have good players. I just think the circumstances surrounding them don't necessarily paint a picture of college football playoff national champion.
All right, guys, certainly appreciate it. The first of 4 days from SEC Media Days in Atlanta, and Damien Harris and Josh Pate delivering the goods here right off the bat. Reminder about Josh Pate's college football show 3 times a week on YouTube. Make sure you check it out at 8 p.m. Eastern ASAP.